Hello and welcome to the All Together Now Everton Football Club podcast. As you can see, we are at our, I was going to say future home, we are at our home here at the Bramley Moore Pub. Greg, it's been 18 months since we were last down here. Your thoughts on that monumental stadium behind you?
It's quite surreal. Just driving up earlier to park up and get ready for the podcast. And we've sort of been here along the way, haven't we? From when the Bramley Moore football team was there on an empty dock to now, and it does feel a bit surreal. I don't think it's going to take me an awful long time to get used to it. I've been to a test event there, watched football, if you could call it that, there, and it still doesn't feel real. So I don't know what it'll take for me to. I think it'll be a incremental, drip by drip, game by game process. But I'm not going to lie, there was a feeling of pride as well already driving up, seeing it. Just this majestic, iconic already part of the landscape, and to think that we've sort of watched it emerge from the dock. And as you say, like 18 months ago, I remember even before that when we had the architect Dan Mice here. Yeah, we did. He was talking about what it would be like. Truth was for me delivered. So Surreal is my overwhelming take on it.
It just seemed a while ago when we done that podcast in here, then we had Dan Mice in here, we had Joe Parkinson, Michael Ball.
A few years ago.
Yeah, it was a few years ago. It was packed out then, and that was obviously what was to come for Angie, our lovely landlady. Jez, your thoughts on the stadium since we were last down here?
Just looking forward to that first proper game now. I don't think I'll be going to the Roma game.
No, why not?
It's a Saturday.
You're going to the test events and you're going to the Roma game. That makes sense of that.
Saturdays are my sort of like umpiring days during the summer. I'll go to first team matches, proper matches, but I probably won't be going.
Not big enough for you now.
I went to the 2 test events, as you said, but just that first league game, whatever date that might be, just walking up and just seeing it, and probably be the smiles on everyone's faces who can't believe actually that they're going to go to the first league game in there. Just wanting to get in there now, aren't we?
I know loads of supporters that haven't been to any test events. They're not going to the Roma game. They're waiting for the Brighton game just to literally walk through the turnstile for the first time. There'll be lots of supporters like that. It's going to be an eye-opener for them, not just for speak about transport and everything else around, but be a massive eye-opener for them. And we're lucky enough to have already step foot in there. How would you describe to that fan who's going to walk into that stadium for the first time and watch Everton's first team in the Premier League? How would you describe that to them?
They'll feel like there is an away game.
Yeah,
because it is something new, and it's like when you go into the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium or something like that, and you go, wow, it will be that wow factor. It'll just hit people straight in the face. But then the reality will sink in that this is our stadium. This is our home now for forever. So I think there'll be a lot of just emotion on people's faces, but happiness with it.
It'll be the adult equivalent of a kid if you were fortunate enough as a kid to get taken to Disneyland, won't it?
Yeah.
When you walk or some theme park like that, you've never been to one before, and it's like the scale of things. But I think it'll get serious for us when, in different capacities, you've got your match day responsibility with the Echo and what have you. When it's, the rhythms of work and covering football, be immersed in football, when that all happens and there's points on the table, maybe it'll feel a bit more like home and it'll feel a bit more real. But that test event, I can only echo what Jez said. It felt like I was a pre-season at a European Champions League club. I think I've said this on the podcast before. It was amazing and delightful and all that, but it didn't feel like Everton's home. Now I can't.
But we'll make it that home, Greg.
Maybe it'll be.
How do you make it a home?
Yeah, maybe it'll be the bits of branding that the club acknowledged weren't in place at that stage. The second test event I went to, so there's been more that will Evertonise it, if you like. But more than anything else, it will be that first. Playing for points in front of a full. I would imagine a full stadium. David Moyes leading the senior team out. And
I suppose seeing away fans there as well.
We've
not seen away fans just in that corner. And
how do you turn a house into a home? How do you do it? I suppose it's weird. This is talking about it. I suppose there was many Evertonians that walked into Goodison Park for the first time I can't get my head around
memories,
that.
Yeah, you're right. That's
like
another...
many Evertonians would have walked into Goodison Park for the very first time in 1892. And this would have been exactly what they were thinking on, how do we make this into our home? It's like, here we are now, years later, going through exactly the same thing.
One thing they won't have been doing is doing selfies and posting them on Facebook, would they?
And recording podcasts. We spoke all, obviously, the surrounding areas. We've just been outside and done a little walk, Jez, and obviously it's well documented the transport issues in and around the stadium. I think we put some questions to our subscribers, which we're going to go through. In fact, we'll go through them all shortly. But before we do, I think a lot of them were asking about the transport issues so far, what's been done since the test events. Now, I can only speak on behalf of what I've gone through, and what I go through Moorfields Sandhills every single day when I'm transporting to my work in Liverpool City Centre, and it just looked like nothing's changed. Now, behind the scenes, it might have done, but to me, on the platforms and in that fan engagement zone, they call it, where there's barriers outside, it doesn't look like anything has changed there. I know lots of guys have said, like, how far is the walk from Liverpool City Centre? Well, I have just done it, so coming here, I thought, right, I'll do this because I'm probably going to get asked this question. So I left the town hall. So I'm guessing the town hall is a good vantage point from where many Evertonians are going to be leaving from. So that's like Water Street, Castle Street and Dale Street. So everyone's going to be heading towards from there and heading towards, walking along Regent Road, cutting through Costco, Old Hall Street, down the front. That's going to be the main area. So I left there and I got here and it took me 24 minutes in total, which I'm not saying I'm a fit lad, but it's not bad. So that's what it is. So, and we got talking, didn't we, just in terms of like going to other Premier League football stadiums. It's not the norm, is it, to walk to a football stadium that's going to take the best part of, that's me being 25 minutes and I'm just walking at a quick fast pace. Half an hour to walk to a stadium from your nearest transport isn't quite clearly good enough, because we know quite well Moorfields is struggling to cope.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying the season before last, I drove to Brentford, Crystal Palace, Fulham, Chelsea, and all of them, you'd think London, you'd struggle, all of them are parked within 15 minutes, and I always make sure I sort of like park on a road out, so I know I'm not going to get hemmed in at the end. You can't do that here. We've known that's going to be the issue. They'll all pick up on their routines.
Yes.
It won't take long for people to work out what they can do, what they can't do, where they'll park, what time they need to get there. But there won't be any quick way of doing it, and that's just going to be the reality, isn't it? It's a price that we're going to have to pay for having a stadium on the waterfront, and I've been critical of it. I think it will be worth it. It's nice saying that while the sun's shining in the middle of the...
By the way, it's still blowing outside and it's still windy. We're in the middle of the summer. So you can only imagine what... And it was pretty cold during the first test event. So February, if you remember rightly. It was Baltic down here, wasn't it? It was windy, so we can only imagine December, November time, FA Cup here's round, replayed. It's not going to be one for the faint-hearted, is it?
I think my personal concern is that the council have had a few shots across the bows after that first and second test event. And Steve Rotherham, all very conscientious in saying that he keeps talking about squeezing more out of the rail network. And I have some sympathy for him, because he doesn't decide obviously how much funds are at his disposal. But I would rather hear that there was, even central government, who, by the way, must, as a Labour government, must be looking at schemes like this to regenerate part of one of the poorest. But we must be looking at thinking, how can we get behind it? And I know central government spending is under more of a pinch than ever, but at the moment I'm just hearing about more bus capacity. I'm not sure that's going to cut it. I'm not sure it's going to be enough.
Touch the service, is it? Let's have it right. When you get on a bus, 19 people.
You've seen bus drivers on Twitter who've come out. I think Julia
Bowles, she mentioned
a bus driver replied. He said, it's not going to 90 odd at best. It's not going to make a difference.
It's 54,000.
The other thing, I've just driven along the drive to get here, and all the signs are saying if you were going to the concert at Anfield, park in town. So it's the same round there as well, isn't it? It's just The thing about
there's 4 ways
Goodison,
to get to Goodison Airfield. That's the
you
big
were
thing.
surrounded. You could come in.
You could come in from 4
Queen's
different
Drive,
ways to get to the stadium.
From Southport, from over the water, from town. Here, there is only the one way in.
Well, Leo, I mean, that's a very good point about the sort of logistics of Anfield compared to this. I went to see Bruce Springsteen at Anfield last month, and getting away, it was a little bit congested for like 10-15 minutes, and as soon as it moved, and to be fair to the council, it did work quite well. They had shuttle buses going back into town and increased buses going back into town, because I think a lot of day trippers come outside the city and whatever. And it all eased, and because people were going 3 different ways, everyone found eventually a bit of fluidity in the traffic, and we were home before we knew it. Now here, I think Jez kind of touched on it there, we kind of knew it was sort of one way in, one way out, but I want the club and the council to provide some answers.
But is it the club, Greg? Is it just the club? Because the club
decides on it as the site.
So the club's built a stadium.
Yeah.
It's past planning permission.
Yeah.
So now it's up to the council and Steve Rotherham and Mersey Travel to make sure that they've got the facilities to be able to cope with it.
Oh yeah, but they work in, I agree with you there, but they sort of work in they should work in tandem.
Yeah, of course, I get
the
that.
club chose that site, not the council.
This hasn't just like grown overnight. It's been
exactly. And by the way, I wouldn't want any other sites.
Of course, I get that.
Maybe the King's Dock back in the day, but then it's still sort of not a dissimilar problem, if you like, is it?
No. I mean, people complain when they go to concerts there, and there's only like 6, 7, 8,000. It's gridlock after a concert.